What's up, Kansas City? Drew Eanes is one of Kansas City's greats. He holds the title of Senior Client Solutions Manager at J.E. Dunn Construction. He also leads in many nonprofit organizations across both Kansas and Missouri state lines. This has garnered Drew some outstanding recognitions and awards. The best part is that Drew is just getting started. That's our guy, Drew. This is Enterrupt KC. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Enterrupt KC. I'm D-Rod. This is my man JL.
Yes, sir, man.
What's going on, man? What's going on?
Man, it feels like a lot's going on, to be honest with you, lately.
It does, man. It feels. I'll tell you what feels good to be in the seat, man.
It does.
I was. It seems like you can't get here quick enough, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, today we're joined by none other than the man himself, the one, the only, Drew Eanes. What's up, Mr. Eanes?
What's happening, fellas? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Happy
man.
New Year, man.
Glad to be
Happy New
here.
Year. Yeah, right on.
Appreciate you having me.
Hey, man, check it out, Drew. I've only really known you for 3 or 4 years, it feels like, mostly like on social media, it feels like, but it's like when I thought about who would be a good guest to have on Enterrupt KC, because obviously, we're talking about people, places, and things in Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I was telling D-Rod, man, I got this dude named Drew, man. We got to get him on. We got to get him on. And so I started hitting you up right away hey, yo, what's up, man? You want to join us on the podcast? So Thank you for joining us, man.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I think I remember when I met you, we went to Jack Stack for lunch. You were working on a different job, and I immediately appreciated your hustle. I think you were going through grad school at the time.
I was, man.
And so we started talking a little bit about what you were doing there, and I always get inspired by people who want to do more and want to better themselves. So this was an easy answer when you asked me to do this. So appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. The respect right back, Drew. So, straight off the cuff, man, easy question. What aren't you doing nowadays, man? Because you are a busy dude.
Man, that resume you got. I'm telling you, I was like, hold on, he's doing this. Hold on, he's doing this.
This, that,
Yeah, man.
I'm not sleeping.
Hey,
I need to do more of that.
I like that.
Hey, those that sleep, man, they go right past what's out there for them, right?
Yeah, someday, man, someday.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So what's going on, man? What you been up to, man?
Starting the new year off right, man. There's a lot of really cool initiatives I've had the opportunity to be a part of with my role with that, at home, watching my kids grow. My boy turned 5 this week.
Awesome.
And they're both pretty good athletes. I got a girl and a boy, so that's one of my biggest joys is get to watch them.
Five's a good year, man. That's a fun year, man. They're talking, they're getting all them words together, man.
Yeah.
And that's probably the funnest part of life, right?
Oh, by far. They're a blast right now. I got to head coach my daughter's basketball team on Saturday, so we got that blowout win.
Yeah.
But,
is it competitive or?
It's getting there. They're second graders, so they're still learning the ropes and the fundamentals of the game, but step by step.
Yeah.
It's good to see them when they do them travels and you just let it roll.
Let it roll.
It's okay.
Let them roll.
It's okay.
Just go get buckets.
So the kids are competitive like that, right?
Very much so.
That's competitive.
Very, very competitive, and I definitely want to instill that in them and that confidence to know that they can do anything they want, but they got to put the work in to do it. So,
for sure,
sports is a great outlet to learn those fundamentals and those lessons,
as well as being in a team.
Absolutely,
having that team bond and that camaraderie, that they build, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, that's a joy just being with my family. But outside of that, I've fortunate enough to be pretty busy. So my day job at J.E. Dunn Construction, I lead our construction here in Kansas City and in Wichita and a couple of different vertical markets. Okay. So that's been a lot of fun the last few years. And then outside of that, I'm really involved in the philanthropic space.
Right.
The Hadley Project was a very successful 3-year fund that we started in 2021.
Right.
We're now shifting to do bigger and better things with the KC People's Fund, where we were approved for $50 million last year to start our own independent foundation. So $50 mil.
Man, that's a real shiny penny, man.
It is. So we got to figure out how to do it right.
So speaking on that Hadley Project, can you give that a little bit more detail what that is? What does that do?
Yeah, the Hadley Project was a $6 million fund around racial, social, and environmental equity.
Oh, okay.
So it was really targeting grassroots nonprofits that in areas that have historically been underserved.
Sure.
And so we saw a big gap in terms of, philanthropy doesn't have to be so hard. And so I got out in the community, really built relationships with people. The building that we're in right now is one of our first grantees.
Yeah.
Gift, generating income for tomorrow.
Right.
And just get to know people as people,
Right.
and get to know their mission and figuring out what gaps we can fill, whether you got to pay a light bill, whether it's programming, et cetera, sending kids to school.
You use the word, man. You use the word equity.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we've talked to a couple other people, right? And they bring up the word equity and how important it is, man. But, particularly here in Kansas City, why do you feel like that word is so bothersome to people?
I don't know. And quite honestly, I'm not really concerned about why that is. I think,
Sure.
It's a matter of the issues are what they are.
Right.
They're pretty factual based. When we presented last year around, our new foundation, the KC People's Fund, there's 2 maps that we presented, and one shows economic opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning, you're making $60K or more for a household in your community, and the other map was the demographic map of the metro area. So this is both sides of the state line.
Right.
And if you put those maps over one another, it's the same map.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that shows you, black and brown communities happen to be one of the most underserved communities where income is low.
Right.
But take color out of it. It doesn't matter. If you're really trying to help with economic inequality, these are the areas that need it the most.
Right.
And unfortunately, that happens to be in a lot of black and brown areas in the KC Metro. And so we
And
just
who
want to do
better,
something about it.
man? I mean, who better than, a child of Kansas City, man, to be out there, pushing those boundaries and helping those communities thrive. You know what I'm saying? Those historically underserved communities thrive. I'm curious, Drew, man, talking about all the philanthropic work you do, plus your day job, man, you got some real fire in you, man. I'm curious, man, where does that come from in Drew? What planted that seed?
Yeah, how long has that been going on? Is that like something in particular in childhood? Maybe kind of drove you?
I think it's how my family's wired.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't matter what all of us have decided to do, whatever it is, we take a lot of passion into it. So my brother, he's 2.5 years younger than me. He's a hustler too. He lives out in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
But we were instilled at a very young age from our parents, my father and my mother, that there's no excuses.
Right.
This is a tough world, and I'm going to give you the tools to succeed, and it's up to you to go do it. But you better go do it.
Right.
And so that's the mindset that as a father now that I have with my kids. We want to make it fun, and give them opportunities. But there's no excuses to. You will succeed.
Right.
You figure out what that's going to be.
Right.
But there's no excuses not to succeed, and I don't really. There's no other option for me.
Right. And I like to think of it like, who much has been given, a lot will be asked of, right?
Yeah, much is expected. Yeah.
Yeah, much is expected, right? And so, man, that's awesome, man. I'm curious, man, when you talk about, your work with J.E. Dunn, how much overlap is there? Is there any overlap between your, nonprofit and the for-profit side?
Yes. So one of the markets that I'm responsible for is the nonprofit sector. So nonprofit organizations who may be going through a capital campaign. Fortunately, with the hats that I wear in the philanthropic space, I've built a lot of those relationships over the last few years. And so I've really gained an understanding for what these nonprofits' needs are and what the wants are. And again, getting to know them as people, and human beings, and really put an emphasis on how we can further the mission of their organization rather than focusing on a construction project.
Right.
And if you do that, then more times than not, good things turn out on both sides of the situation in terms of helping them with their construction to make sure that they have a building for the future, but also helping them with their core mission.
Right.
And really focusing on that and how we can move that needle forward. And I think J.E. Dunn is a great organization to do that.
Yeah.
This is our 100th year. And so,
shout out J.E. Dunn, man.
Yeah, man,
that's a huge Kansas City company.
Yeah, man, they've been around a long time, and they got a lot of big jobs that they've been a part of, man, no doubt.
Yeah, you don't last 100 years without being invested in your communities.
Absolutely.
So,
and I mean, man, the proof is in the pudding, because when I see how involved you are, right, not just in Kansas City, but the other work that you do, I mean, that support is from your job too.
Absolutely.
Well, right? I mean, it's not just your family and everybody else who has to support you. I mean, you're supported by your career.
Yeah, I work with a lot of great people who, inspire me as well. It's not just about building something. It's about what can we do to help people? What can we do to help communities? And if we, keep that mindset first and foremost, then everything else takes care of itself.
Right.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, man. The communities, man, that's a great thing. With that spectrum of what you do is wide and far, like you said, across both state lines. Has there been any type of, challenges with that, I would imagine?
Yeah, there's always challenges.
Yeah, man. I mean, but obviously you overcome that, and you learn where to dig your boots in a little bit more. And
Yeah, my goal in life is not to be perfect or not to do everything right. My goal in life is to continue to improve and along the way help other people's lives improve.
Yeah.
And so, I really measure my day-to-day and what I'll be judged on by just trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
Now, some days I may do the wrong thing. That's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's okay to do the wrong thing. You learn from your mistakes.
Right. We all
You
learn.
learn from adversity, and you keep moving forward. Right?
Absolutely,
And,
man.
if you do that, and you're able to sleep well at night.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back, man, to young Drew, man.
Yeah.
So, where did you grow up in Kansas City, man?
I grew up in Overland Park. So my family, my parents moved here from Cleveland, Ohio in 1985.
Okay.
And my dad was working in the telecom industry. So those who are from Kansas City know that Sprint used to be headquartered here, which was one of the largest telecommunications companies in the world, especially during the 90s.
Yep.
And so my parents grew up in East Cleveland, Ohio, predominantly black, low-income community. And we moved to Overland Park, Kansas, which is essentially the opposite of that.
Completely.
So I had the opportunity to grow up in great schools, great sports programs. I've had a lot of friends who I'm still friends with today. But I also grew up in a Cleveland household, if you will, right?
Yeah,
So I got to see the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds, going to Cleveland and just comparing and contrasting the opportunities that I was given that maybe some of my family members weren't, right? So it helped shape my perspective at a pretty young age for, what this world is and, what's my place in it. And I think I was able to gain a really good perspective and something I think I benefit from today. I can get along with anybody. It doesn't really matter what you look like because of that experience and where my family is from and the opportunities that I had growing up in Overland Park. And, merge those two things to understand people are people.
Yeah.
What would you say, man, between like Cleveland and Kansas City? What's some of the automatic, even at young age you were when you came here? You're like, man, this is different automatically. What was it?
Opportunity.
Yeah.
In terms of my dad will tell you this. Like, there's people that he grew up with that haven't left Cleveland, Ohio in their life. Not because they didn't want to, but they didn't know where the opportunities were. Right?
Yeah.
And so Kansas City, specifically in Overland Park, they're rated some of the best public schools in the country still today. The sports programs that I had, like, you didn't see that in East Cleveland, Ohio, the organization and the structure.
Right.
Some of the crime and the issues, a lot of the issues that a lot of inner city communities face, not because it's their fault, it's just because of certain, redlining history of things that kept people from investing in those communities. Right? Well, Overland Park, they got a lot of investment.
Yeah.
And so, I look at both of those things, and today I'm fortunate enough to be a small role in some of the same situations here in Kansas City, some of those underserved communities, to try to give people more opportunities.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
that's-
that was shaped from my background, my family's background.
Yeah, I think that's a major part. When you come from your city that you came from, and then the transition here and seeing it all. I'm sure that was a part of your drive and your motivation to be involved with what you're doing. It sounds like,
Yeah,
which is a
absolutely.
great thing.
Yeah, I've seen family members, uncles, that have had some demons in their past.
Right.
And
It's
I
like
see
every
them.
family,
Exactly, but I could very well be in the same boat, but I was given a lot of resources and a lot of opportunities to not do that. Right?
Right.
And so I see the power in what that is, and I want to try to do, play a small role in other people's lives to give them that confidence to know what they can go succeed.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you know what's crazy, D-Rod, man? When I hear Drew talk, man, it's like I can almost hear a lot of myself saying the same stuff. Man, I mean, don't you feel that way?
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing as well, man, because I know being the old kind of, I'm the youngest of my siblings, but I was able to grow up with all my nieces and nephews. So it was kind of like one of those relationships that was, I'm your uncle, but I'm you know, we're not really like that. You know, we're much more tighter. And I've had many conversations like that with probably each and every one of them somehow, some way that we grew up with like that.
I guess, for me, when I hear you talk, Drew, it's not the fact that you were provided resources and that they were around you. In my mind, it's the fact that you were at least intelligent enough at your age to say, I'm going to take advantage of these resources and these things around me.
Yeah,
right?
go get it, man.
Yeah, you can give a person as many opportunities as possible, but it's up to that person to do something with it.
Exactly.
And so,
exactly.
I don't go into the work that I do saying you're going to do this and you're going to succeed. That's up to that person. But I certainly have the relationships and the opportunities and the wherewithal to give as many people an opportunity to succeed as I can. Now, how many opportunities will that be? I don't know, but one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time, man. One at a time. Man, it's great that, Drew, that you're working at one of the largest, if not, the largest construction company in Kansas City, worldwide, J.E. Dunn. And they got somebody like you who represents what I feel like, man, Kansas City's really about. You know what I'm saying? We're about opportunity. We're about providing people opportunity. You know what I mean? That's kind of the spirit of Kansas City, I feel like. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. Kansas City is a very unique place. We all want to help one another. And I think the more that we do that, Kansas City's it's not on the come up. We are the come up.
It's
right?
there, man.
But the more that we continue to work together, and that's black, white, brown, doesn't matter, male, female, doesn't really matter what you look like. The more that we can collaborate on things, the more the city's going to continue to thrive.
And that's what it's about. Like you said, J.O., you get more people in there, man. Strength is in numbers, man. So once you get that set and you got a following of people, man, that's a good thing. And to even touch on what you said, a lot of people say that who end up doing something in Kansas City that's not from here about how much our city welcomes them.
Right.
You hear it all over the place, man. I know I have.
Yeah, and we're a town of 2 states.
Yeah.
We're a city of 2 states, man. And the great thing about you and the little I know about you, Drew, but I'm learning is that, man, you hop back and forth. I mean, there is no KCK and KCMO without Drew Eanes involved in that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's excellent, man, that you're able to kind of straddle the state line and impact Kansas City as a whole, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 states. There's about 18 counties, a lot of cities that are within that. And, I get tired of the whole narrative around, if you're in Overland Park, then you don't care about what's going on in Liberty or KCMO, right? We're one community, right? We got a lot of resources here. So the more that we focus on the fact that we're one community instead of, 6 or 7 different ones, we can accomplish a lot more together and gain a different perspective for other people.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it.
So I read somewhere too, Drew, that you was a part of some type of program that also helped ex-felons.
Yeah.
Right? Is that accurate? Or is that
That's part of our Hadley project.
Okay, and that's it's some second chance deal when people who are incarcerated that comes out, and as well as I do. I mean, we all know somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's a hard time, man, for them to get back on their feet. And the statistics already is once you're out, you're more likely you're going to go back in there.
Yeah.
And with what you do is try and guide them into different trades, right? I think that's what I read, to help them build their own life with and succeed, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think every person deserves a second chance, and the more that we can help people get on their feet, after a tough situation, and they can contribute to the economy, then all of us are going to be better for it. And so, it's not about one individual person or organization. More so, it's about the work in terms of making an impact in people's lives. And so that's always the focus. Whether it's reincarceration or previously incarcerated individuals, education, doesn't matter what it is. It's all about.
There's always room to grow, man, with everybody.
Man, the thing is, Drew, is like I heard this said once, and I don't remember who said it. I should have wrote it down because it was excellent when I heard it.
Maybe I said it.
Maybe you did say it.
I think I did.
I think about D-Rod probably
Maybe
did
I
say
did
it.
say it, man.
It's that a town is only doing as well as the person on the lowest at the bottom, right? And that's something to me, man. That almost seems, lack of a better term, man. That's almost like a cross you seem to carry. You know, like you're like, man, I believe that strongly, and not only do I believe it, man, I'm trying to impact that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's a story I heard a long time ago. One of my favorite politicians is JFK. Since I was like 7 years old, I watched like videos of him, and everybody knows he was the guy that was the catalyst to the space race and to get us to the moon and all that. And he was at a NASA facility one day, and there's all these scientists and astronauts around him. And one of the first people he went up to was the janitor, right? And he went and talked to the janitor for about, got his name, who he was, and treated him like a human being with some dignity. Right? It takes every single person to get to what we got to get to the moon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Including that person. He's just as important. He's part of that organization. And so you got to look at life that way. You know, don't have that perspective of I can only talk to the people up here, right? Because you're going to miss a whole lot.
There's a lot in between.
Perspective. Yeah,
there's a lot in between.
I always tell people, man, all the time, in my career and in any way of life they are. I always say, man, you got to treat people good because you never know where that person's going to end up.
Right. Yeah. One thing that we used to tell everybody was, when they're down low, and they're making it up to the top, like, all right, man, I see you going up there, but you know what? I might see you when you're coming back down. I mean, sometimes it goes like that too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, man, again, man, you just got a lot going on, Drew, and you just seem to wear so many hats, man.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you balance that, man? Like the hats, plus you're a father, you're a husband, right? I mean, you got a lot of hats, man. You got to throw on from time to time. And my guess is because of how busy you are and involved you are, you wear multiple hats at one time sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's always a work in progress. Today I'm not perfect or where I want to be from a mental aspect to handle a lot of the things that I've taken on. It's a continuous conversation with my wife, just to get her to understand why I'm doing the things that I'm doing and my passion behind it. But also, listen to her and the expectations of what's required, of our home and our marriage and our friendship. But I think if you looked at me last year this time, I was struggling with it, right? I had been recently named chair-elect to the Kansas Chamber of Commerce. I'm chair this year. A couple of other leadership opportunities that I was doing, and I got in this zone where I was saying yes to everything because I care about it, right? But if you say yes to everything, you can't do everything successfully. Right? And so last year I spent a lot of time mentally figuring out why I was thinking the way that I was feeling, because all the stuff that I'm doing I think is positive and good for people, but I didn't feel that way sometimes. Right? And so going into this year, I'm really focused on my mental state and making sure that I do things for me, exercise, sleep right. I can't do the things that I'm doing in the community unless I take care of myself.
For sure, man.
And so I'm always trying to get better at that, and I'm not perfect at it, but it's something that I communicate a lot more than I used to now. I don't need to hold that stuff in. It's important to talk about that.
Absolutely.
And make sure that I have people in my corner that are on my side and support me. But I'm not perfect at it yet. It's something that I continuously have to get better at and make sure that, I'm mentally okay up here. I'm smiling. I'm showing up the way that I need to show up. Because if I'm not showing up the way I need to show up, then other people are impacted by my negativity.
Right. I think that's what you said right there, man. I applaud you because that's I would say it's probably 99 or 98% or whatever of most men. To even take it on that level. We don't talk about it. We hold it in. We think about it, but it's always when we're like in the car driving home or something, right? So hats off to you, man, for taking that, thinking about yourself. I mean, I think that a lot of men, including myself, sometimes we got to do that, by all means, it's a healthy way of living. You got to always put yourself first.
And I'm sure, Drew, similarly, probably, I grew up, when I was growing up, man, I had a lot of uncles and I had my father, right? Yeah. And you didn't talk about that, man. You just go with the flow. Life hard? Sorry. Life easy? Sorry. Because it's going to get hard.
It was always harder before from everybody telling you that, man, you ain't got it hard.
And I'm not trying to say you're saying life's hard. I'm saying that, the pressures that come with being 100 all the time.
Yeah.
You know, being top, you know, like you're present, you're available physically, mentally, and
In
then
every
you got a
form.
family.
Yeah.
Man,
And
challenge.
that right there is 100 regardless too. You know, you always want to give your family that 100,
Absolutely.
and you throw in your career and everything else you're doing. I mean, yeah, the pressure is going to be there.
Yeah, you got to embrace the good and the bad of life. You know, that's how life is beautiful, but it's
Yeah.
not always good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not always successful. You know, you got to embrace everything with it and learn from your mistakes, learn from adversity, and continue to try to get better. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit, Drew? For you, man, like, what do you feel like? You know, you felt like, man, this is hard for me right now. Like, I know you talked about, you know, this last year being involved and, you know, kind of getting pulled in a lot of directions. But has there been like a certain specific situation for you that you're like, man, this is the one that really kind of sticks out for me?
Yeah, well, I think to your point, you know, one thing in general is just like having 3 events to be at once. You're only one person, right? And so you got to prioritize what's the most important thing that I need to be at. And I think I've gotten better at that. I think more personally, a lot of the things that I've undertaken, there aren't many people that look like me or anyone that looks like me in some of those spaces.
Yeah.
And so I feel a certain obligation because of the opportunities that I've been given and I've earned to make sure I maximize those opportunities for other people. Right. And so at times that's a heavy burden, right? Because the way that I have to move, I wouldn't say it's very calculated, but I have to be extremely self-aware, you know, in any room that I walk in.
Right.
Because I know what the eyes that are on me, and I know
What they're looking
that there's
for.
people that I can help inspire that I hopefully will be better than I will, that look like me in those positions at some point. And so you know, it is a weight that I carry, but it's a weight that I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think if, you know, you ask my parents, they wouldn't have it any other way either. That's why they raised me how they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's something that I think about quite a bit. You know, it's not just a race thing, but sometimes it is, because you want to, you know, when I've earned positions to where I've gotten, I really want to make sure that I do my due diligence for somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just black, but younger men,
Yeah.
women, Hispanics, whatever. I understand what that feels like.
Right.
And so that's something that I think about pretty constantly,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of know who you are, where you are, and your place in terms of how you can impact things for the better.
And your success and all that. I mean, I totally get that, where you got to be aware of your surroundings and what you're offering to everybody else. And some people might not like that, you know. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I don't know, but I can only assume that. I'm sure that you kind of might have caught some heat from other people or whatever.
Yeah,
but
once or twice.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but even to touch on that, man, I'm going to say a couple things here that I heard about you, that you was the Kansas City Man of the Year for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You was also
candidate,
and then you was also the Centurion of the Year, right? You was elected for the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce ACE Award recipient, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, man,
Idealist of the year, city year, man. I mean, man, what the heck? Idealist? That's awesome, man.
That's a big word, man.
It is, man. It is. Go
It
ahead,
is.
man.
No, man. I just, you know, from what you're saying and how you have to keep your head kind of like on a swivel, you know, when you walk into a place and all that. Well, when you holding these type of titles and everything else, man, I can imagine that. Yeah, like you said, all eyes are on you, and sometimes those are some deceiving eyes or whatever else. And I'm sure there's many proud people that like to see you and are happy to call you their friend.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it goes both ways. I would say it's definitely much more positive than negative.
Yeah,
but
for
you know,
sure.
You're always going to deal with doubters, you know, every now and then. But I think that's
Show
going
'em
back
wrong.
to. Yeah, that's what I went back to about, you know, how I want to raise my kids and how I was raised. You know, my father instilled a great sense of confidence in me and my brother, right? And I don't care who you are or what you do, but if you have people around you that can instill a sense of confidence in you, you're going to be okay.
Right.
You know, I don't think about the reactions of, you know, negative or positive, what people are going to say. If I really believe in something and I think I'm going to make a difference, that comes with the territory.
Yeah.
And so you got to be prepared to deal with that when it comes. But definitely more so than not, it's a lot of people that are in my corner that are supporting the work that I'm doing, that my colleagues are doing in a lot of different instances, and that's the mindset. You know, I'm not worried about people who doubt me. You know,
Right,
you do that, you're not going to focus on the work to benefit people.
Right.
Right. So,
I mean, you know, man, I think I love the word you used earlier, Drew. You said the opportunities I was given, but I earned. I mean, man, that is such an important word, man, when we talk about earning something, right? And so, you know, when D-Rod was going over some of the awards and or recognitions that you received, man, to me, when I was looking at some of this stuff, I was like, man, Drew's been busy. Man, he has really earned what the reputation you've built for yourself, man.
Yeah.
So I think talk about that a little bit, man, like trying to be involved, not just trying, but you are involved in multiple things, right? You got a reputation that goes with that. You know what I mean? What is the most important characteristics you feel like you want to be, you know, in your reputation?
Yeah.
Like, man, this is how I want to be known.
mhm. I think, you know, I've had the opportunity to mentor people from various walks of life the last couple of years, and the first thing I always ask them is, what is your passion? Right? Now, I don't want people to be exactly like I am, because I have my own unique experiences that have shaped my passions. Right?
Yeah.
So I want people to identify what are you passionate about, and identify what that is, and then you can build your life around that passion. Right? So I never thought I was going to work at a construction company. I'm not very good at like math or putting stuff together, right? But I am passionate around people, and I use that passion as a means to be successful at a construction company.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think, you know, every individual has certain skill sets and experiences to be passionate about something. You know, it's not my job to dictate what that passion is, but I do try to inspire people to, you know, brainstorm and think about what their passion is. And if they can figure out what that is and then start showing up to things that, you know, are with that passion, life kind of snowballs and everything takes care of itself. Like,
That whole universe thing comes in play.
yeah, exactly. You got to be confident and you got to have a passion.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, go do it.
Right.
Right? And you have to practice that, and you got to learn and show up, and all of a sudden you're going to meet all these people. Right? You're going to get in all these different rooms. You're going to be wanted at places because you show up. That's half the battle. Right? And once you figure out what your passion is, use that in every walk of your life. So me personally, I've always been really good with making friends and helping people and being there. And because of my background, understanding, you know, the haves and the have-nots, and I use my place to do something about that. That's my passion. So you could look at all the different boards that I'm on. You could look at my job, my set of friends. There's one passion: people.
Right.
Right. And so I figured that out, I don't know, a long time ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And try to use that. So whatever I do next, it's going to be something with people.
Yeah.
You
But it
feel
doesn't. Not everybody has to be that way.
Yeah.
People figure out what it is for them.
Yeah, so with that, I mean, you got something in mind going on here in the next 5 or 10
Nah, man.
years, man?
I'm just trying to wake up tomorrow, man.
Yeah, that's
President
right,
of the
man.
United States.
Come on, man.
Come on, Drew.
2024 is going to be an interesting year for that. But,
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Cat
Yeah,
Williams
I'm
already
I'm
said
curious,
that.
man. I'm curious. People, you are good with people, man. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good with people, but man, you're better than I am. I feel like, you know. And where, man, do you get concerned? Like, I mean, you know, you talk about mentoring, right, and kind of setting up things for that next person coming out behind you, right? And man, I gotta be honest, man. Do you ever have like a thought, like, man, we're gonna get to a point with social media and the internet, and here comes AI now, you know, and
Oh, man.
people ain't gonna be talking to people no more. We're gonna
Nah,
be talking to
they
machines
got all
here.
kinds
You
of
know,
stuff
you ever
going.
think about that?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I think the societal changes we're dealing with now are nothing new. You know, I was born in 1986, so I've seen an extreme amount of change over the course of our life. Like, you could say the same thing when the iPhone came out.
Yeah.
Or you could say the same thing when Facebook came out. Or you could say the same thing when those dial-up America Online back in the mid-'90s.
Right,
like
yeah.
cell phones. My dad had one of the first car phones, right? Like,
Yeah.
There's been so many technological changes over the course of my 37 years that people were saying the same thing you just said now. Right? This is going to completely transform our society, and ultimately everything works out okay. Right? People, you know, human beings are pretty resilient. We just got to adapt. And so there's pitfalls with new technology, but there's also limitless opportunities in terms of what that could be, right? And so you just got to kind of enjoy the ride and try to make sure that whatever small role you have in that, you try to use all of these new innovations for the positive. Not everybody will.
There's a lot. But there's a lot going on, man. There's so much.
You know, the thing is, man, you were born in '86, you said?
Yeah.
So we're '80s babies, you and I, right? We all remember a time when, we had cords on our phones to call people and talk to them.
Yeah,
and
phone was on the
You
wall.
want to play a video game with a friend, you're sitting next to them, you know what I'm saying? So, like, to your point, right, the world changed, we've adapted, we've adapted. But I just feel like, man, as time goes on, these people skills that you really clearly have and you're good with and has helped connect you with other people, I see that as a social struggle. And I don't care where, like, I don't care, your economic class. It doesn't matter. Like, I feel like your race, this is a challenge for people, particularly young people, right? Yeah. And because they feel like, I don't need to, my own young son, man, he's 15, and it's like, sometimes when I want to get his attention, I just text him, like, hey, man, come here, I want to talk to you, like that. I don't know, man. I just.
No, man. No, I agree with you, and I hear what you're saying. I think, one of the benefits of being into history is to understand that history repeats itself. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't say like the technology hasn't repeated itself yet, but in courses of history, there's been times where people didn't communicate or there was divisiveness. A lot of the things that we deal with now, like, it's not the first time as humans we're dealing with this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a different era and different things. And, life kind of sorts itself out. I think certainly growing up in the 90s, you and I have a different perspective than like my second grader would right now.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like, she may have something completely different in terms of how she utilizes technology for the positive that you and I aren't thinking about based off our lived experience.
They do it all the time.
Exactly. And so, everything kind of sorts itself out. It's kind of like the pendulum swing, right? It's like when the day that people are really not talking to each other enough, it'll probably shift completely because people are going to realize the value in communication, right? Yeah. And so it's just that's happened over and over the course of history, and I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, I think it's kind of done that a little bit. Like you go to any restaurant to go eat, like I know I do, and sometimes you'll see a couple sitting there and they're both on their phone. I'm like, man. Yeah. So I always make it a point sometimes to just leave my phone at home. I'm not trying to be all on it, or dinner time and stuff like that. I don't do all
I don't
that
know,
too
man.
much,
If my wife's mad at me, I'm bringing my phone to dinner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I ain't taking her to dinner. This was she mad at me now.
But look at this scenario. So when we were kids, so there's a lot of scholarships and people are going to college of like e-gaming now. Yeah. I'm terrible at video games, right? But that's something that was very common when you and I were little. PlayStation, Nintendo 64, and all that, right? Yeah. Now people are literally making a living off of that skill set.
Playing.
Now my parents were like, I hate all these video games. The generation, all they do is want to be inside and watch TV. Well, look what it's doing now. Like, people are using that skill set to create some pretty cool stuff in our society, right? So
that and even living. Like I a few years ago, like I was telling JL, I was like, man, the kids are making thousands and thousands, if not millions of dollars playing games, man. And I don't know. I wasn't a gamer, and I am not still to this day.
You an NBA Jam guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to play with the Suns, man. Dan Marley.
Suns? Oh yeah, you was hitting them.
Hitting them threes.
On fire.
That's right, Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, I was a blitz. I would do NFL blitz, man. I think that's the only one I've ever got down with, and I went to Super Bowl.
I have to tell you, man, the one that caused literally pretty good physical interactions between me and my friends was college football '98.
Yeah.
Man, Michael Bishop and who was the A&M quarterback at the time?
You're talking about.
They beat K-State, right?
Go to the national championship. Yeah. K-State would have gone to the national championship.
Yeah. Man, we used to go at it in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. But you think we talk about all that stuff now, and this is something that a generation ahead of us thought was probably kind of foolish.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I try to look at anything that I may not agree with Right? That's okay. I don't agree with it, but be
Yeah,
open-minded and
gotta
learn
be
what the
open-minded
positives,
with
what the
it.
positives are, in a new technology or event or what have you, because usually it works itself out.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, to even touch on that, right, is all these filters, man. Like,
Oh, the film.
and because I'm guilty of it, man. So, like, I did it to where, like, I made myself a woman, right?
Oh, okay.
Have you ever done that? Come on, man.
My wife has to me.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, man, I tell you what, I was like, man, look at this girl right here, man.
You would have hollered at her, right?
No.
Come on,
Maybe 30 years ago,
Okay,
man.
okay. No, but I mean, we're kind of on sports a little bit, man. So one of the questions I have for you, man, you're an athlete. You're still an athlete. You're a former athlete. How do you call yourself? What bucket?
I'm just trying to maintain, man.
You're just trying to maintain.
And
What'd you compete in?
Yeah.
Growing
What'd you get
up,
down?
I did a little bit of everything. So I ran track, played little league baseball, football, basketball. As I got into high school, I was 3 sports until my junior year. I broke my leg, returning to kick. So I dropped basketball, which my friends would say I didn't have a jump shot anyway. So it worked out, and they're right. But I ended up playing football and track throughout high school, and then I was fortunate enough to run track in college. So I did that. I graduated, and I said I'm never working out that hard again. So now
Work at your pace, right?
yeah. Now I'm just trying to maintain.
Yeah.
So
man.
where'd you go to school?
Drake University.
Drake. Okay, and that's up in
Des Moines, Iowa.
Des Moines.
Iowa, man.
Man, it's windy up there, man.
It's
Cold,
windy
man.
and cold. It's like
Windy
what it
and
is
cold.
right now out here.
Yeah, man. It's kind of crazy up there too. I used to go there all the time for work, man. It was all right.
What did you run in? Like you did track, but what was the actual?
Everything's short. So I led off on the 4x1, 100, 200.
Okay.
I used to have a good vertical, so they tried to get me to long jump.
So there's some footage of you somewhere. There might be.
There's probably footage of me pulling a hamstring.
Oh man.
Yeah, it might be out there.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So after you graduated, what did you study?
I double majored in marketing and management in
Okay.
undergrad, and then I got my MBA from Baker University.
That's what's up. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Nice.
Shout out Baker. Yeah.
Nice, man.
What did you know like when you got done with college? Like, okay, I'm gonna. What was the plan?
Who does know that?
You took a break, right?
Listen,
You took a
man,
break a little bit.
I've been in college my whole adult life. I just knew what I was doing, right? That's how it happened for me. But
Yeah. So one of the, going back to my parents, once I turned 18, it was my responsibility to make sure that I had internships and I was working in the summer because I was practicing. I didn't have to have a job during the school year because I was doing extracurricular activities, and so my father was like, "Get on it." And so Des Moines is very well known in the financial and insurance sector. So like Wells Fargo, I believe Nationwide, or Principal Financial is up in Des Moines, and so they do a really good job of career fairs and recruiting. State Farm was up there, and so I remember going to a lot of those career fairs, which gave me a few opportunities. But I also had an opportunity here through some relationships that we had about an internship with Chevron, which at the time was the 3rd biggest company in the world. And so I interviewed for it, and I was fortunate enough to get that position during the summer, working in their marketing and sales department, getting an understanding for the lay of the land, how they succeed.
Nice.
And they kept bringing me back. And so I did that 3 summers, and they hired me full-time my senior year of college. So I was fortunate enough that I had a job right after I graduated to get to work, and then also continuing to network up in Des Moines at the time with some of those firms just in case I needed a fallback plan.
Yeah.
So fortunate enough that it worked out, and I did that up to my time now, most of my career. I'm in the energy efficiency space, and so learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
Got thick skin, learned the sales game, traveled all across the country. It was a great experience.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that, man. Like, in your mind, like, what's one of the coolest places your jobs has taken you to
I
travel
was about,
to?
man, we were thinking alike. I was thinking about what city you like the best, man.
And I've been to Boston, I've been to Pasadena, I've been to San Antonio, Houston, Austin. I really like El Paso because of the food.
Yeah.
I've been
all over.
Been all over, fortunately. Yeah, it's been cool. Nashville, Memphis, Florida.
Memphis is cool, man. Nashville is real cool.
Yeah, they all have their own strengths. In terms of the culture, the weaknesses. It's cool.
You ever been to Mississippi?
I've driven through Mississippi.
Man, I stayed one time in Gulfport, Mississippi. I was down there for about 2 months. Some of the best food you could ever have, man. They're not shy. Or they give you all kinds of stuff, man. I loved it. I took pictures. I still got it. I'll show you one day, man.
Yeah, that part of the country has great food.
Oh, man, yeah, it's great. I love it.
Boston, man. I've never been to Boston. I've always wanted to go to Boston.
Great city.
Yeah, great city. I mean, I love baseball. And
Gotta
my
get
goal,
to Fenway.
one goal in life, man, and hopefully I get to do it. I want to visit like all the MLB parks, the Major League Baseball parks, man. And Fenway's definitely on that list.
Yeah, my parents used to live there when I was in college, and so I got to go to Fenway, got to see Kobe play against the Celtics, been to wherever the Patriots play. So it was a cool experience to be up there. There's a lot to do.
Yeah, is this in the Celtics run?
It was, yeah. They played the year the Lakers played the Celtics when I went. They played each other in the finals that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was.
So you saw some good basketball.
It was a packed house, old school rivalry. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. I heard you're part of a barbecue team, man. Is that true?
Yeah, I got to plug Mad Cow Angry Beaver, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we our dads, some of us that I went to high school with, our dads formed a team, a bunch of my football teammates, my sophomore, junior year of high school. And so we took that over my junior year.
What's the name of it again?
Mad Cow Angry Beaver.
Mad Cow Angry Beaver, man. Shout out
what does
Mad
that logo
Cow.
look like? We got to find that.
We got to find that for real, man.
It's quite the logo.
Yeah.
But as you can tell, we're not very serious based off the name. So we took that over our junior year. And it's a great way to keep in touch with some of my childhood friends. A lot of us are in that phase of life. We got little kids. We're working hard, and so we don't see each other nearly as much as we used to. And so this is always a really good excuse to be able to do that.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate enough to win a couple of ribbons the last few years. So we're not that terrible.
Well, I was going to ask what the ribbons were rated for.
We got first place in sausage at the Lenexa Barbecue in 2022. We've gotten top 10 in pork a couple years ago, and then we've had a multitude of entries that have gotten in the top 25 over the years. The ribs, brisket. Yeah, so we do it all. Besides whole hog, that's too much.
Have you ever had beaver?
Yes.
Look, I've had beaver as recently as last year, and I have to say, man, it tastes like roast beef, at least the way
I heard it tastes like pork, but they said don't eat the tail. They said the tail is.
I don't know if I ate the tail.
Yeah.
Maybe I did. That's why it tasted like brisket. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, they said the tail is nothing but fat.
Yeah, I'm open to trying almost anything.
Right.
Almost. But I'll try the wild game.
Yeah. What's your favorite? Okay, let me rephrase that. What's the most different meat you've eaten?
The most different?
Yeah, like there's something that I eat that, like something.
I don't
exotic,
know, different.
Something exotic.
I like alligator.
Alligator's cool.
Fried alligator.
Cool.
They used to have that at the barbershop here on Prospect. I used to go to this barbershop called Sheer Experience.
Sheer?
Yeah, it's closed now. But they used to have this day where they get like a wild game feast.
No shit.
So my dad would always make sure he took me and my brother.
Yeah.
Like wild alligator, squirrel.
The craziest thing I ever ate was ostrich.
Ostrich?
I ate ostrich one time, and it was, it was real tough. I was like, I was chewing that shit, man. I don't know about that, man.
Yeah. My wife's from Iowa, and so my brother-in-law and father-in-law are big hunters.
Oh,
and so I've really learned a lot from them in the last decade or so. I've gone ice.
So you hunt?
I wouldn't say all that, but I'll eat it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I've gone ice fishing. Hunting pheasant, quail.
Yeah.
All that. So
I got some pheasant now in my freezer, man. I need a cook, man. I don't know nothing about that.
I cooked some up a couple of months ago. I got you, man.
Yeah. They said do it just like chicken.
Yeah,
you could smoke it or whatever. You know?
I fried it up.
Man, I'm gonna have to do that, man.
There's one animal I've had cooked three different ways. Don't like it, and it's duck.
Yeah, I like duck.
Man, listen, I've had duck baked, smoked. I've fried. man, there's something, I don't know what it is. It's just,
It's got a gamey taste
it
to it.
does. It had a
Yeah.
real gamey taste to it, and every single time. And this was not even close together. I mean, I spread it out just to make sure. You know what I'm saying, Drew? So, I don't know, man. Do you have a meat like that you're like, yeah, there's just this one I can't get to?
I'll try anything, and I say again, almost. Like what I mean, almost by the fact that I don't eat chitlins. My mom makes chitlins every
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
I've
and
had 'em.
I will never touch those because of the smell.
Not even in the taco, man. You know,
Nah,
some of these
man.
Mexican
Nah,
joints,
nah.
man, they got those. They
You can
got
have-
those there, man.
You can have mine. But yeah, I'll try almost anything. You know, I wasn't saying I'll eat it all the time, but you know, I like to be curious and explore a little bit.
some lingua. You eat some lingua?
What's that?
Cow tongue.
Beef.
I don't know about that.
Man,
I mean,
it's good, man.
Hey, all right, you cook it up, man. I'll try it.
All right, man, got you.
we gonna-
Got
we
you.
gonna- we gonna-
Man, we got to go eat right after this, man. I ain't dinner, man.
That's what I'm talking about. Listen, man, one of the things that, we ask people, Drew, is, man, just particularly you, busy. You talked about that, right? You got a lot going on.
A lot.
What do you do, man, to get away?
Yeah, what's your fun time, man? What you get?
What is that, like, Drew's in his zone?
Drew
away from
downtime.
the zone he
What's
has
that
to
Drew
be in?
downtime,
What does that
man?
look like?
I'm known for having a very fun time, so I enjoy being around my friends and family immensely.
Yeah.
Right.
As serious as I can be, I also have the extreme of being very silly and goofy. So
Yeah. Don't listen.
it doesn't take much to please me. I mean that it's just being around good people.
Yeah.
I enjoy different types of tequila.
Okay. Now
Wine.
we're talking.
I like music.
Where's my bag at?
I like to read.
Okay.
But anytime I can get around people, it's not about traveling to these exotic destinations or anything. It's more so like it doesn't matter where, be it my house, your house.
Yeah.
And just chop it up, play some cards.
Yeah.
That stuff fills my bucket. It gives me energy to.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
poker player? Put 31? What we playing? Spades?
I'm not very, I gotta go spades. Man.
Spades?
Spades.
Oh, man.
I play some spades, man. I play
sevens.
some spades. Yeah, man. Yeah, I say that all the time, Drew. Man, always like. It don't matter where I go. I can go to a big crazy place. I can go to a small little hole in the wall joint. I can go a dive bar, good, but it all depends on who I'm with.
Exactly.
I can have fun, and have a blast. Best of my times, man. If I'm with a group of people, and it ain't got to be a group of them. It could be one or two.
Right.
So I feel you on that for sure.
Yeah.
And you talked about a couple things I want to hit on, man. So you said you're a music guy, which we'll talk about, but you read, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what books we reading, man?
I just finished, so with my job, I've really tried to understand the Kansas City landscape a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a couple of projects that we are working on in the city of Independence. So I just finished the Truman autobiography. So that was really cool just to understand, a local guy that was president in terms of how he came up, his humble roots, his work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of the tough decisions he had to make. That's the guy who made the decision to drop the atomic bomb. Right?
Yeah,
that's a pretty big decision to
Big.
make.
Yeah,
And so just to see the resilience and the calmness that he had to make or have to make decisions like that were really inspiring. And I think it's Kansas City.
Yeah,
having that mindset. So I just finished that. I moved on. I'm reading Bill Clinton's My Life.
Okay.
I started that last week. My favorite book that I always talk about is the 4 Agreements. So there's 4 agreements in terms of how to live your life. A couple, don't make assumptions, don't take anything personally, always do your best. And so, things that help me become a better person I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But,
It sounds like you're a nonfiction guy.
yeah, more so. I'm not into like Dungeons
Story,
and Dragons.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say you're not reading
Harry Potter
the
and all
Hobbit.
that. Yeah. I always lose interest in those things pretty quickly.
Yeah, as well as I, man. Is there any book that you've read more than once?
The 4 Agreements I've read a couple of times.
Right.
And my parents got me this book for Christmas. It's like the top 150 poems ever, right? So like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Robert Frost, Edgar Allan Poe, Langston Hughes, some of those guys. So I really love poetry, right? So I've already read that book once, and I'm like going back already.
Yeah.
Just because I think you can find a lot of strength and, you can learn a lot from poetry in terms of really
Do you
digging
know
down.
that? Do you know, since you're a fan of poets, all them buildings on the plaza, they're all named after poets.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. There's a Robert Browning. There's oh man, I used to know him. And the reason I knew that is because when I was a kid, I threw papers, right? And my route was a plaza. So if you drive down like the little side roads, like where Grand Falloon, all those apartment buildings, all around there, man, they're all named after poets. Man.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, check
Good
it
thing
out,
you're doing
man.
this podcast now. People can know.
Well, people know that, man.
So I'm curious, man. You a writer? You write?
Yeah, every now and then.
Some
Not as
poems?
much as I would like. I used to write a lot more.
Yeah.
Now it's my fault. I haven't made the time for it.
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
something. I have a journal that
Right.
I don't use enough, but when I do, I try to capture everything going on in my life.
At that time.
Yeah. So that's been good to reflect on. I started that in the pandemic when we were sitting at home. So I need to do a better job at keeping up with that. But
Well, you've been busy, man.
Yeah, you've been busy.
You know, you got every great excuse.
I
you know?
started during the pandemic. My wife or my kid, somebody got me a book, and it was like
I think I did.
questions. Maybe it was. Maybe it was like, answer these questions, and it's basically a book of questions about you. How would you answer these?
Yeah.
And it's like 1 or 2 questions a page, Drew. And man, I'm sitting there in the pandemic just giving my heart. Because man, I don't know, the world's falling apart, man. I might die tomorrow. I'm like writing, my will out, I feel like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So man, I got pretty accustomed to writing in that book, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's good, man. So you're somewhat of an artist.
I'm a very curious person. I think that turns into artistry or what it may be. My mom, she kept a journal probably when I was born. She started keeping a journal.
Yeah.
And did a much better job than I do keeping up with it. And so that's something I really love to read. And so I want to make sure that my kids have that same opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so it's something that I'm passionate about for sure.
It's healing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like that?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
healing,
that's therapeutic, man.
Right.
It's therapy, man. Either way you look at it, like, and again, I have also. I think I have about 4 of them damn books, notebooks laying around where at some time in my life I was in them. And then I went on to somewhere else and I wrote in that. And I find them still. They're still within reach,
Right.
Where I can get them. But yeah, man, it's therapy, man.
One more thing I want to hit on, music. You said, man, I listen to music.
What's
What's on that playlist?
What's that
man?
playlist looking
it's
like,
pretty
man?
broad, man. It's pretty broad. At parties, I usually
The
end up being the
DJ?
DJ. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I grew up in
that's surprising. You were born in '86, man.
Yeah.
Like that's the best. Hey, I already know we vibing at a party. Me and you.
Yeah, so I was a big Death Row Records fan growing up in the 90s. So Tupac's always been my favorite
Okay.
artist simply because he was born in June like I was, and I loved his attitude in terms of like no one getting in his way. Now there's certain things that I would never do that he did that ended up with the situation like it is where he didn't live. But I loved his mindset of being fearless and being scared enough.
His lyrics, man, has always touched me too tremendously. I mean, everything he just got, man. Everything from his first album to even the 5 or 7 after he passed, right? That they came out with, it's just unbelievable.
Talk about writing.
Man.
That man wrote.
He's a poet, yeah.
Poet. I mean, and his poetry on top of just writing rap lyrics, man. I mean, so give me your favorite Tupac song.
I mean, the whole All Eyes on Me album.
Okay.
Hearts of Men is probably my favorite song on that album.
Okay.
But I catch myself listening to Live and Die in L.A. quite a bit on the way home. It's pretty laid back. But all that stuff from the '90s, like Biggie, Method Man, Wu-Tang, Outkast, UGK, all that.
Oh man. Yeah, we vibing at a party.
Yeah.
But then I grew up. My parents were big into music, so my first concert I went to was George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelics.
Oh man, have you seen him here?
Yeah,
seen him
at the
here?
Midland when I was in like 7th grade.
Yeah.
So Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Bob Marley. I used to sing "Don't Worry About a Thing" to my kids to help them go to sleep every night. Right. So
What you think about that movie coming out?
I saw the preview the other day. I'm excited. I told we'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
I tell people all the time, man. I mean, like you, I'm sure I got thousands and thousands of songs, man. I got every genre. I like everything from country to I love blues, man. I'm a big blues fan, right? Of course, hip hop, rock. I mean, I like it all. It just got to be like a vibe, man. It got to be where how I'm feeling, what I'm vibing with, man, to get it. And
I'll tell you, man. You a Tech 9 fan?
Yeah.
Man, listen.
The new one?
I mean, the new one, the old ones.
Oh, yeah.
I just, there's something about Tech 9 and his delivery that just has always been unique to me. And I listen to just like you, man. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. You know, that's to me, that's the heart of hip hop in those years, right? It's just something about Tech, man, and I'm so glad to see the collaborations that the Chiefs did with him and everything like that. Because to me, it's like, man, y'all finally giving this man his due.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
only been repping Kansas City since I can remember. You know what I'm
Since
saying?
he came out, man.
Since he
came
came out.
I remember, I told JL, man, I remember drinking with him a couple of times at these bars. You know,
A lot of
when-
people
when-
probably had those stories.
Yeah, man, I'm sure they do. You know, but yeah, down
Yeah,
on
he's
the
been a
boulevard,
great steward for Kansas City. You know, he's
Absolutely.
always stayed true to his roots. You
Yeah, and
gotta
he always
appreciate
puts it
that.
on the map wherever he goes, whatever he says. I mean, on any other platform he talks on or whatever interview, always Kansas City's home.
So Kansas City, man, and you're somebody obviously Drew impacting the city, both sides of the state line. We talked about that, man. Where do you see Kansas City, man? Let's say in 20 years. Like, how do you see the city, man? Because it's changed. I mean, just in the time, you know, since '86, right? My time here, you know, I mean, we got a freaking. I was gonna say this earlier. To me, whenever it was cemented that Kansas City is here, they put a damn Ferris wheel right next to the highway downtown. I'm like, okay, Kansas City's here. Bam, you know, there it is.
Yeah, 20 years from now, that's a tough question. But I think if you look at what the city was 20 years ago, I wouldn't say it's completely different, but it's a lot
Pretty
different than
different.
it was then.
Yeah.
U2, one of the most well-known bands in the world, they did a music video here in the mid-'90s called "The End of the World," and they filmed it in downtown Kansas City.
What band is that?
U2.
Oh, really?
It was called "The End of the World,"
Yeah.
and they filmed it here in Kansas City because there was nothing going
There
on.
was nothing downtown.
So 20 years ago, Kay Barnes, the mayor at the time, or had recently been mayor, was talking about P&L and the Sprint Center and all of this stuff to really revitalize Kansas City. None of that was here. Mm-hmm. Right? And so look at that now. Because of one catalyst area, what's been built around that? Now you got developments, you got One Light, Two
All
Light, Three
over.
Light, you got the Kauffman Center. You have all of this infrastructure and growth because of one catalyst project, right? So you forward to today, possibilities are endless, right? You look at what we did last year alone. We had the NFL draft, we got the World Cup.
Coming.
Hopefully we'll have a new baseball stadium
Got the Current.
at some point. We got the KC Current Stadium. We have all this unique, cool stuff going on, right? We got all this, the Speakeasy Network and jazz and like all this stuff that made Kansas City what it was back in the Pendergast era, right? And all that's here now. And so the key is just to continue the momentum, is to not let your foot off the pedal and continue going.
Right.
And I think that's the key, is to continue to develop people, to continue to build confidence, to continue to show people what this sense of community is like and grow. And 20 years from now, possibilities are endless. It's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, and
sure.
you kind of hit on that, man. The World Cup, Copa America. I mean, these are huge events coming to Kansas City. And I know, like, towns like Denver, they were pretty pissed off. They didn't get a World Cup game. I don't really care. But, I mean, I don't, no disrespect, Denver. But to me, are you a soccer fan?
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't grow up like me and my friends. We played sports crazy. But the soccer is one sport we never played. You know what I mean? I mean, we were just some inner city kids. We just didn't play it. But man, now it is the sport.
Yeah, my brother was a really good soccer player growing up. He played in college, and so I learned a lot of what I know now from him. I was the same way. I played football and didn't like soccer growing up, but I really have learned to respect and understand the game a lot more than I did.
Right.
It's the number one game in the world for a reason. So America is behind the 8 ball. Besides the women, because the women are killing it, and we got the first stadium for women's soccer in the world here in Kansas City.
And
But
that looks pretty badass, man.
yeah, but for the men, we got a long way to go. But I think it's cool to see, I'll look at both of my kids are a good example of that. Since Sporting Kansas City came here, we kind of adopted the European model to grow talent. And so, Lee's Summit, Overland Park, all these different areas have some sort of sporting Kansas City league,
Right.
where these kids can grow into that, and they take the best players. Matt Beasler, he was in my school district a few years younger than me. He's a legend in Kansas City. So we're trying to find more Matt Beaslers
Right.
within this program and grow it organically. We're
Right.
like, how cool would it be for a kid that grew up in KC Mo schools to get drafted by Sporting Kansas City someday?
Absolutely,
So
man.
it's been cool to watch.
Yeah, it has been, man. It has been. So, you're gonna attend the World Cup game?
If I can get a ticket.
I'm
It's not
sure you
promise,
can.
man.
I'm
Drew,
sure
let me
you
tell
can.
you something. If Drew Eanes can't get a ticket to the World Cup game,
Man, get him a ticket.
We have no shot. I'm
Yeah,
just telling you
man,
that
I
right
know
now.
it.
We have no shot.
Yeah, I just want to get to one of them, man. But yeah, I got to go. Last time I was here in 1994, I was in Orlando, where I lived at the time. I got to see a game. I think it was like Belgium and the Netherlands, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. I remember complaining that it was 0-0, but I would look at it completely different now.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's cool, Drew. Man, I just wanted to, Enterrupt KC, right? We pride ourselves just on our logo and everything. People, places, things, Kansas City, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to ask you about, can you give us a person that you feel, besides yourself, of course, maybe a role model or maybe a friend or somebody you think a person that represents Kansas City?
Yeah, there's plenty of them.
I'm sure.
I could list a couple. I think Mark Garrett, he's a senior VP at Blue Cross Blue Shield Kansas City.
Okay.
We're fortunate enough at J.E. Dunn to work with Blue Cross Blue Shield on their new building. We're doing the interior build out there, but he's an African American that's worked his way up the ranks.
Okay. Mark,
And,
shout out Mark Garrett,
Shout out
man.
Mark Garrett.
And somebody that I admire because I want to be that person
Yeah.
someday. And whenever I reach out to him, he's always quick to get back to me, answer questions on how to
Yeah.
do things. He was the chair of the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce last year.
Okay.
And
Great.
so with my role with the Kansas City Kansas Chamber of Commerce being the chair, we had a lot in common and stuff that I like to pick his brain about.
Okay, cool.
But if you look at the building that I work in downtown at J.E. Dunn, there's like 100 of them. I've developed some really great relationships with people like Marcus Walker, who's our national chair of our Black Employee Resource Group, Jason Banks, who's our head of procurement,
Okay.
Zariah Rollins, who runs our DEI initiatives on a national level, Keisha Bosby, who started at 16 years old in the mailroom at J.E. Dunn.
Wow.
And now she's the regional DEI director. Jeff Blazing, who's our office leader. Paul Neidline, who's was our Midwest president and just took a new role. He's been incredible and keeps it real with me about some pretty difficult situations that I've had to encounter.
Okay.
Gordon Lansford, our CEO. I could go on all day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. I'm sure.
depending
You're surrounded by good people.
Yeah, man. Sounds like it, man. That's cool. And then let me just add to that. Then, what about a place, man? What kind of place you think represents Kansas City, man? I know you've seen them all because of what you're involved in. But is there a certain particular place that you feel?
One of the plugs, I think, is Vine Street Brewery. It's right off 18th and Vine. It's the first black-owned brewery in the Kansas City metro, and it was an abandoned building
Yeah.
that they repurposed, and they're making their own beer. One of the owners I actually grew up with, Elliot Ivory, and it's been great to see them thrive, right? Because it's something different. I was a judge in their Gumbo Fest this year. They partnered with
Ooh,
The Spot
man.
next door, which is another restaurant that you should try out,
Yeah.
Chef Shanita. But to see kind of the culture and people come together, it's what we've been talking about, that theme of bringing
Yeah.
people together.
Right.
Kansas City likes their beer.
Yeah.
They
It's a
like
lot.
they like music. And they like good people.
Yeah.
And it's been cool to see them do really well. But I got a lot of spots, man.
Ain't
Yeah,
been there,
I'm
man.
sure.
I need to check that place out. What was it called again?
Vine Street Brewery.
Vine Street Brewery.
Yeah.
Gonna have to check that place out.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. The last one is things, right? I think that kind of might have played in there too as well, with your answer, So I just wanted to ask you that, man, about those three things that we use here on our Enterrupt KC, people, places, things, man. And
One other question, Drew, we're asking people, man. I think somebody like you could vibe with this. Tell me you're from KC without telling me you're from KC.
Let's see. which side of the state line are you on? Are you a 913 or 816 person?
Huh.
And the answer you're going to get, depending on who's asking the question, will be vastly different.
Okay.
So I was on the Kansas side. So my friends that I had in Missouri growing up I wouldn't say they didn't like me, but we would always have a pretty good debate if I was a 913 guy versus 816 guy. I think that's foolish, personally.
It is.
Right.
Well, listen, yeah, at one point in time, and y'all, I know you remember this, Drew, growing up here, you used to have to dial 816 to call people,
Yeah.
right? And you used to have to dial 913 to call people. I remember those days.
Yeah, I do too, man. I do too.
I'm glad we're past that.
Yeah. So let me ask you too, man. We're gonna be wrapping this up here in a little bit, man. But what advice would you give, say, a younger Drew or somebody? I mean, I know you mentor people, and as well as people mentored you. It sounds obviously in your upbringing. What kind of advice would you give somebody who's looking at being a partnership or wanting to be doing what you do?
Be patient and enjoy the ride. I think when you're in your 20s, when you just get out of college, or if you don't go to college, when you're younger, you always have this perceived plan of the way things are going to go, and it never goes that way, like ever.
Right.
And so you got to learn to embrace the bumps to get to where you want to go. I always knew that I was really driven, and I had a passion for things, but I didn't really fully understand what that would turn into until the last couple of years. And so I found myself extremely frustrated sometimes when things didn't go how I wanted it to. But in hindsight, when things didn't go how I wanted them to, I learned the most about myself and how to overcome. And I think I'm a product of success because of my failures or the things that I had to overcome.
Yeah.
And that's hard to understand when you're going through it.
Yeah.
It's real hard.
But you just got to, keep your head down, stay the course, keep trying. You don't keep doing the exact same things, because that won't work. But you learn from situations that you go through, and you grow from them. And if you continue to do that, and eventually good things happen to you. You just got to enjoy the ride and be patient.
We talked to a couple of young people actually, and we asked them. We said, "Look, man, we're going to start this podcast. What's something you want to hear people talk about?" And surprisingly, I mean, these are people, still in high school or younger, and they said the pressure to know exactly what you should be doing when you graduate high school.
Yeah, no one knows that.
Nobody.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that enough, do we?
Yeah, not at all. And that's part of what helps you succeed is like embracing that unknown.
Yeah.
The people who sit there stagnant and just think about all of the pitfalls of what could happen or what may happen, like they're never going to get anywhere because they spend all their time thinking instead of doing. Right? If you put your mind to something, don't talk about it. Don't sit there and think about it. Go do it.
Don't talk about it, be about it, man. That's what me and you say all the time, man.
Walk that talk.
Walk that talk, talk it, man. Right on, Drew. Hey, man, is there anything else you'd like to share? This is, whatever you got to say, man. Anything you want to say? Speak
No,
on.
man, it's cool to see what you all are putting to work here. I think it's important to continue to get voices that are passionate in our community and connect people, and give people a different perspective. And the city's doing a pretty good job at that, but we can continue to do better. So I appreciate y'all reaching out to me.
Thank you, man.
Hey, man, we appreciate you, Drew, with
for sure.
everything you do, man. I mean, just from being involved, the work you do every day with J.E. Dunn, philanthropic work, but most importantly, man, being a good dad, being a good, a father, husband, all those things, man. Those are so important too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So shout out to you, man, Drew. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, man. Let me just ask one more question.
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
If there is anybody who needs help with what you're doing, right? Yeah. If there's anybody who needs help with what you're doing, and if you can provide that,
how they get a hold of you?
Yeah, how they get a hold of you? Is there a email? I mean, a website, email, something you can share if you want to,
Yeah, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. That's where I've, fortunate enough to meet a lot of good people who reach out to me and, want to meet for coffee. I love meeting new people, especially passionate people. So reach out to me. With my nonprofit stuff, the Hadley Project has changed. It's not the same organization anymore. So that was a 3-year kind of experiment.
Okay.
And so now we'll be called the KC People's Fund.
KC People's Fund.
And so in the next year, hopefully before a year, we'll get our new website up and talk about all of the different people that we're working with, and access to get a hold of us to send myself and our team how to get in touch. I think the biggest thing is not necessarily what we need, it's more so with organizations that we support. They always need support. And so when we roll our website out and build that, we want to make sure that we give people access to see all of the great organizations and the smart people that we get to work with.
Absolutely.
And there's always a need. And that's the cool thing about Kansas City is, if you want to help, there's somebody that needs the help.
There's somebody who can do it, man.
That's
There's
right,
somebody
man.
who can do
That's
it, man.
right. Well, again, Drew, man, thank you so much for everything you do, man. Thank you for joining us on Enterrupt KC, it's the
Yes, sir.
podcast where we talk about people, places, and things in Kansas City. It's my man D-Rod.
Yo.
It's your boy JL. Peace, everybody. Till next time.
See you next time.